spoon-fed. So you expect the lecturer to teach you every single thing in the course, but this will not be the case when you go to study in the UK. So you have to be very active in learning. Also, most universities, they provide this so-called career service. So after you graduate your master program, many of you would like to continue working for a few years, or even continue as a research assistant. At the same time, you can do as a PhD student. So the university will provide these career services. Then not only they will provide the advisors for you, they will also help you with your CV writing, and will teach you the interview skills, and provide you the places to search for a job. So you can seek this advice in the career services in the university. So some tips about the studying in the UK. So you have to get yourself to be familiar with the educational system, because you are moving to a new country, and especially the course only lasts for 1 year if you only study the master program. So you have to get used to the system very fast to avoid any delay. And also you have to, it's recommended to join any social network to try to meet people, because not only you're going to study, you're also going to train your interpersonal skills, or try to meet different people. So it's the best if you could join some student societies and try to meet different people and make friends with them. And also about language training. So actually I would like to speak something about the language, because it only takes 1 year to complete the study, and especially for those who would like to get a certificate in the UK and come back to work. From my experience is in China right now, the employers, they start to realize people go to UK to study a master program. Not necessarily means they will have a brilliant English, because the time is really limited, only 1 year, and most of the time you have to spend into study. So therefore the time to practice your language and try to communicate with other people could be quite limited. So the employers start to realize they are actually not as qualified as they would expect. Therefore so my advice for you is try to use every opportunity to make friends with the foreigners, try to practice your English, and not only English, but also try to practice your communication skills as well. So to emphasize the studying styles, so you have to be independent. So the independence is a key word that you have to keep in mind. But you should not expect the so-called rote learning, which means learning by memorizing. So here you can memorize all the equations, then you can do very well in the exam. But in the UK type of study, so you not only by memorizing, so you have to understand the theory behind. So this is much better. You will have a much better understanding. And you not only learning the knowledge from the classes, so you have to learn from seminars, normally arranged by the professors who invite other professors to come give a talk. So you will gain a lot more advanced and front-end knowledge from these seminars, and also some tutorials. And if you go for a PhD study, so you would have to learn from supervision, and especially the style of PhD study in the UK is even more independent. So there will be no written exams in the PhD as in the US. So you do not take any taught courses for PhD study, and you basically totally have to rely on yourself. So if you continue to do a PhD study, so it's very important to understand what your supervisor would expect from you in terms of study. Again, the first keyword is independent. So you have to be independent and also responsible. So that means in the PhD, during the PhD study, you would have chance to produce many written works or professional documents. So you have to be fully responsible for the quality of this document, not like you just try to complete the document and send the draft to your advisor. So you have to put a lot more effort. And also make sure you attend regular meetings, and usually it's once a week with your advisors. And also be honest when you report, because some weeks you probably only did some reading of the literature papers, so you didn't make any progress in your work, but you have to be honest to your advisor. This is also very important. But being independent doesn't mean you do not listen to their advice at all. So their advice is also very valuable, right? So you have to, listen to the advice of your supervisors. And the most important thing is you have to be interested and excited by your work, which to gain the motivation. So what you should not expect from the supervisor is, the first thing is your supervisor will not take the initiative. So that means you have to motivate yourself to do the study. So no one will push you to study. And also they will not be your parents then to teach you everything. So they will only give you advice. And you have to be the one to mainly contribute to your work. So basically your supervisor will not do any work for you. They can only give you advice. And another thing is, do not expect them to know every single detail in the field, because if they know, then the field is not worth of doing research. So basically, after your 2 or 3 years of research in the field, you should be an expert in that particular field, and you should also be even better than your supervisor. So that's the concept you should establish in your mind. And also, they will proofread your work, but they will not rewrite your work. They will only criticize. So you have to be, again, responsible for what you write and what you produce from your work. So in terms of the feedback, they would give you advice. So these are the typical feedbacks you will gain from your advisor. So first is how good the work is, or is it sufficient to be qualified as a PhD, or what you can improve further. So these are the typical the feedback you will get from your advisor. Then another important thing is about critical thinking. So you have to not only passively learning knowledge, but you also have to be able to criticize the knowledge you gain, especially when you continue to research in the future. So most of the time you would be reading research papers published by other researchers. So you have to question those published results. Are they really correct? So is there something to be improved? So from these kind of questions, then you can only improve your work or find your own way of doing research. So the critical thinking is very important. And one essential part in the research study is the academic writing. So you have to train yourself to be able to write an article in a very professional way. And not only you try to learn by yourself, you also have to try to get the advice from different people, and especially when you send your research paper for review to a journal, a conference, normally you will get some feedback from the reviewers, and sometimes they will give you advice in terms of the language or the format of the paper. So you have to take into account and try to learn how to improve your writing. And you have to learn how to cite the references correctly, basically to acknowledge the work that has been done before you. So almost every single part of the work is built on the other work published in the past. So therefore you have to acknowledge the work that has been done by other researchers. And also you have to familiarize yourself with these plagiarism issues, not only plagiarism from other researchers, but also self-plagiarism. So this is also the research ethics. So this is very important for you to conduct research after your master study. So the general advice for continuing study as a postgraduate student is, if you do not understand anything, so try to ask as early as possible, because the master study is only 1 year time, so it's very limited. So you try to gain the information as soon as possible to avoid any delay. And also, you try to use some online materials and try to also use some, references books in the library, rather than purely rely on the lecture notes provided by the professor in the class, because normally they only contain very limited information. Okay, so since we are all engineering students, so it will be interesting for us to know if you like to study engineering, which is probably the case for most of us here in the UK. So basically, a number of students going to study in the UK in different countries, although it's still continuing to grow, but the rate of growing already started to drop. And especially for the first year students in the top sending countries, for example, China, Malaysia, Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore. So the number of students going to study the first degree has dropped. So that means more students would like to study postgraduate degree rather than the first degree. So this data was obtained from the British Council in the 2004 and 2005. So this is only the data available. So we can use these as a guidance. And in terms of the student going abroad into different hosting countries, so again we can see the largest the percentage is USA. So most of the students would like to go to study in USA, and followed by Germany, and also UK is 18%, and 8% Japan, Australia 6%. So these are the main hosting countries. The advantage of studying in the UK is it only takes 1 year to complete the master program. So that means you can, gain your degree in a much faster time. And the number of overseas students studying engineering for different degrees. So we see the first degree and the postgraduate taught courses, so they are the highest. And the research, they're quite low. So that means most of the students, they're still going to study the first degree, and also the taught courses of the postgraduate program. And many of them, they will return to their own country after they complete their study. Only a small percentage will continue to do research. And if we see the progression of these numbers, so basically, all right. So we should have a break right now. Right, okay, actually it's not too long already. Okay, right, so here's the progression. So we can see more and more students would like to go and study at the postgraduate program, but still the most students will go to study the undergraduate program. And regarding different countries, so we see China again is the most students who go to study in the UK, and Thailand actually there were less than 1,000 students per year. This is about year 2004 and 2005. So I think the data is probably quite similar these recent years. And this could be quite interesting to you in different engineering fields. So we can have the largest number of students going to study in the UK for the taught courses, which is only 1 year, and you will finish the course and come back to Thailand. So the electronic and electrical engineering, and so which is more than double the number of students of the civil engineering, and followed by general engineering, production, mechanical, chemical, aerospace, and others. So you can get a rough idea to how many students will going to study which field. So this will actually influence the employment rate, because you have more students in the same field to compete to obtain a job. Of course, it also depends on the available job positions. And also in terms of the research, the number is much less. So from 4,500, so job to below 2,500 students will continue to PhD study. Again, the electrical is the largest number, and followed by general engineering, mechanical, civil, chemical, production, and aerospace, and so on. So you can get a rough idea which field you would like to study. Is it a popular area, or it's not many people would like to study? Okay, so finally some information about scholarships. Here we only have very general information. So you have to check each individual university to find out the scholarship information. So the main sources of funding, including research councils and some international institutional studentships or scholarships. So you have to, the first thing you have to check is your own university. So what kind of scholarship or studentship they will provide. And so the first thing is you have to contact your department and as early as possible, because normally the department means in the UK, so they only have the limited space for the scholarships. So try to contact them as soon as possible. And some research councils, mostly the professors can apply for research grant, and you can work as a PhD student working on a research project. So there are the list of the research councils in the UK. What is related to us is EPSRC, which is Engineering Physical Sciences Research Council, and Particle Physics Anatomy Research Council. So these two councils, you can also try to search their website, try to gain some information. And there are also some charities or trusts then you can apply for the scholarship. But most of the time, they have a strict qualification requirement. They require a student from medical schools, or they require you to work for them after you graduate. So they have a lot of conditions. And there are some department bursaries or some also you can be a teaching assistant, so they can waive the fees, part of the tuition fees for you. So if you do some teaching assistant work for the department, again the position for these kind of opportunities are quite limited. So you have to contact the department as early as possible. And there are also some international funding resources that you can gain. For example, in Singapore or in Hong Kong, then you have to search the internet, try to find out those organizations who offer these. But normally they would request something in return, such as you conduct some research for them, or you after you graduate, you work for a few years for them. Okay, so here's some information I try to gather, and I hope they are accurate and you can find them useful. And there are also some additional resources. The first is the British Council, so you can find almost all the information you require to study as a postgraduate student, and some UK visa bureau that you can find information about the part-time job or other, the visa or immigration information. And also the most useful is university website, where you have to make your application individually. And in terms of the scholarship, so this is a very good website. It's jobs.ac.uk. So not only you can find jobs over there, you can also find a PhD studentships there. So normally the professors, they have the research project. They would like to employ PhD students. They will advertise on this website. So you can search the field of study, or search the university individually to try to find the information. So if you work on a research project, you can at the same time complete your PhD study by using the work you do for the research project. And some other website, like postgraduate-studentships.co.uk, so you can get some other information. But I hope you find the information is useful. So if you have additional questions, so please feel free to contact me. So I'll try to help you to get more information if possible. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yan Zhao, for very useful information, and it's not only the information but the tips or manual how to graduate in